Hey everyone, Leo with Dreaming Tree, and welcome to the assembly video for our Noel easel card. It's Christmas in July here at Dreaming Tree in my studio, and as always, we're bringing you 3 cards so that you can get a jump start on your Christmas card making. So we have a card similar to a card that we released for Mother's Day, except obviously it's got a Christmas twist to it. So we're going to start off with the base of the card, and this is where our bell is going to go. I've used the solid scoreline version of the file because I don't want perforated lines here or on the envelope. It just makes it look nice and clean. And we're going to begin by applying glue to the tab on this piece and connecting it to this piece here to create the card base. And I want to take that glue and bring it all the way out to the very edge. Okay, and then we'll literally just connect it to the other half. Make sure you get it nice and lined up, nice and centered as well. Once you think you have it, go ahead and put it down flat and then check your alignment here. These 2 sides should match up and sit perfectly on top of each other. So let's just give that a few seconds to dry, and we'll be on our way. This card's going to go together pretty quick. It features a beautiful little bell. The caption is Noel, and we've got some poinsettias that we're going to use to adorn the bell. I was hoping to get this released last week, but 4th of July weekend kind of put a damper on things, and then well, this and that, and nothing major. Just wanted to make sure that we got everything done right. Okay, so we're going to apply the panel on here now, and you'll notice that on the top half of this part of the front of the card, you have 2 little markers to help you with the positioning of this. So that's more for centering. Ultimately, you want the edge of this to be flush to the little score mark there. Okay, so it's going to sit right on there, and you can also use a little cutout for the top of the bell as sort of a guide. Okay, so let's get our glue going there. We'll start off with the nice panels. I also inked very, very lightly and ran this pearlescent paper through a snowflake embossing folder to give it a nice little texture. Now, if you already have a patterned paper that you'd prefer to use, that would work too. Okay, and just don't forget to get this all the way out to the edge. Okay, you can actually fold that down, press that down flat. That looks good. Just like that. I had way too much fun over the 4th of July, and as many of you probably did, spent time with family and friends, and maybe didn't craft so much. I know I didn't. I got forced to get out of the house and away from work. I really enjoy what I do, so it's hard to pull me away sometimes, but I'm glad that they do. Okay, next we're going to put this piece down. Okay, so we'll do the same thing here. Just flip this over, begin applying our glue. Go easy with the glue. And we're going to match that up with the little outline that's cut out into the card base of the bottom of the bell. And again, try to make sure that that top part of it is flush with the fold. Get it up there as far as you can so that when you have it open like this, it's pretty much continuous. Okay, see what I'm getting at here? There we go. Okay, that looks great. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to open this up now. And this panel is going to go inside here. We're going to get this nice and centered. You do not want to glue this little snowflake down. We want it to be loose and moving around and free to do its thing. Let's get this glued down. So I don't know what it is, but maybe it hasn't been as hot this year. Maybe just in this area. We've been very dry. Okay, just make sure that you get this nice and centered. Should have an even border all the way around. And I'm a little bit off. There we go. Looks good. Don't forget, do not put glue on that little snowflake element there. There we go. Either that or I'm just getting old and the weather just doesn't feel as hot. Maybe because I'm just running cold or something. I don't know if that's part of getting older or what. Ultimately, when we have the actual snowflake built here, it's going to kind of hold up the easel portion of the card. Okay, so let's just put that together real quick. We have this little piece and the largest of the 4 snowflakes that come in this bundle. So we'll just throw a few little dots of glue on the snowflake here. Nice and easy, don't overdo it. We don't want it shooting out onto our beautiful lilac colored cardstock here. And if you did put a little too much on there, just dab it with your finger, wipe it off, and move on. And you just want to get that nice and centered on this shadow element. There we go. And some of the little sections of the snowflake are technically like kind of free floating. You can adjust each one individually, just, I mean, to a certain extent. Okay, so there's that. And then we're going to take this whole element and we're going to glue it onto this piece here. You can see that it matches up. It doesn't matter, obviously this is a symmetrical piece, and you don't want to put any glue on this fold, just on this surface here. So let's do that. Let's get our glue on there. There we go. And just pick a side, any side, just match that up. And once it's matched up, you can actually just put this down flat to help you get it fixed into place. Press that down. There we go. You can press it down that way too. No harm there. Okay, and that's going to sit like that. And then when we open it up, that little snowflake's going to act as a little stopper, which is pretty cool. All right, next, we're going to do some piecing here just to get some things out of the way. Let's find this little piece. And the second largest snowflake is going to go right in the center of the, in my case, it's AC Pine is the color we used. Just a nice little bit of cardstock that I also inked just very roughly around the edges just to give it sort of a two-tone look. And of course we're going to match that up, get that nice and centered on that piece. This is actually going to go on top of the bell in front of the eventual bow that we'll be making for it. Excuse me. A couple things to note here. These little holly leaves, you'll notice that they have some little score marks in the center. You want to just take and pinch those right up to the tip. You don't want to pinch too far close to the base there. Just kind of halfway and then all the way down to the base to give that a little bit of dimension. Same with the smaller one. Do your best to get that pinched right up to the tip. Nice and easy. That's why we have the score lines there for you. So that's ready to go. I also hit that with a little bit of ink. Okay, and then also we have the caption that's going to end up on our card. We did sort of a drop shadow feature on this where, in my case, I've got a gold foil and then there's a little bit of a gold glitter to the bottom left. In the Photoshop world, it's known as a drop shadow, and that actually happened by mistake. We were kind of playing around and deciding, well, are we going to go with gold or are we going to go with green? And I had one on top of the other, and that little bit of gold showing through I thought was a nice little touch to add a beautiful little contrast. So we decided to add that little element, sort of last minute actually. Okay, so we're going to pop that on top right of the entire design so that we just have that little bit of gold showing through on the bottom left. Okay, now I'm gluing foil to foil, which can sometimes be a pain. So you just got to be patient while that sets. There we go, and I can see that the N did not take very well. So I'll grab a scrap of, or a piece of scrap paper, and I can just take and pop that right between those two layers, add a little extra glue to that stubborn little spot, and just press and hold that. You can actually, I'm going to take this and pop it underneath my mat and let my mat do the rest of the work. Okay, all right, so next we're going to start building our little bell. this is going to be the back layer for the bell. You'll notice these two little circles here. You can use those as sort of a guide for placement, okay? And we want to just kind of match it up with the cutout. It's going to be the backing for our bell. And you'll notice here there's a certain point at which we do not need to apply any glue, okay? And that's going to be right about here. So just need to be conscious of that. And otherwise, I want to put glue on this entire section, including on these little circles, just to help it really stay in place. And then just go up as far as you feel comfortable, because we can always take a scrap piece of paper and paint additional glue where we need it. Let's make sure that this lines up first, like that. I'm going to put this down flat, help that really get a good hold. And then this little area here, we definitely want it glued flush to the top of where it folds over. So I'll take a scrap piece of paper and just kind of pop a little bit of glue right at the very top of that, like so, and then press that down and hold it just for a moment. There we go. Okay, so far so good. That's what we should have up to this point. All right, next we're going to put down, and we decided to use a Mylar just because it kind of gives the illusion or the look of, say, a wintry sunset. Okay, and that's going to get glued like so. This will eventually be covered by this gold piece. So if you happen to get a little wonky with the glue here, don't worry about it. We're going to be covering it up. But ideally what you want to do here is you want to just make sure that you focus the glue towards the inside of the bell. And I would just use a series of little dots and up again like so. Okay. And you just want to make sure that I'm going to actually begin up at the top. There's a little, kind of like a little dip at the top of it. And that's just to make sure that we don't obstruct where the bow is going to go. You can actually feed it right through there if you want. I personally would maybe just hot glue the bow eventually to it instead of feeding it through those little loops or those little slits. Either way. Okay, we'll press that down. Looking good so far. And then, of course, we're going to take this gold element now, and that's going to go right on top of the Mylar, like so. So we're going to apply glue to this entire thing, entire piece. You'll notice that we have a couple of little snowflakes that are peeking out there. We're going to get those glued on after this goes into where it needs to be. Okay, go easy on the glue here, meaning make sure you get enough, but don't overdo it because we are putting this on Mylar. It might slip and slide just a little bit, so make sure you are ready to commit when you pop this thing in place. And then we're going to give it some extra time. I'm going to start up here where the slits are for the bow and make sure that that gets lined up. Now I'm looking at the little circle that's going to kind of be a placeholder for our poinsettias, and then very gently give that a press down. And I would actually flip this over now that it's lined up and push from the other side very gently. Just make sure that it's getting a good hold. You don't want that glue spilling out all over the place. And that looks great. Make sure it's making good contact here at the bottom. So we want that to be nice and flush. Looks good. And just keep pressing that down. There we go. Okay, now while we're here at this point, be a good time, I'm going to check my work here, and it looks like maybe, just maybe, I didn't get enough glue there at the bottom all the way out to the edge, so I'm going to paint a little bit of glue on there just for good measure, just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. There we go. I got one side. I might need to do it on the other side as well. And I'll just press that and hold it in place for just a few moments. most of this, not all of it, but most of it's going to be covered up by our poinsettias. And I'm going to do the same thing on that side there. It's not bad, but it's not great. So I always end up with, using some of my scrap paper. I'll put it through my paper cutter, not the Cricut, but an actual manual paper cutter, and just cut a few little squares out. Well, actually quite a few. Keep them in my little box here. You can see I've got a ton of them that I use because they come in handy for little things like this, little touch-ups. Okay, all right, so that looks much better. And let's get our snowflake up there. There's our bell. Okay, so next up, we can start building. Well, actually, before we do that, we have two little tiny snowflakes here, and we did our best to clean them up and make sure that they cut beautifully. Tested them multiple times on multiple machines. One thing I did notice is that on one of my older Cricuts, I think it's starting to go, meaning there's something up with it. Maybe it's just a loose belt or something, and typically it should be able to handle these types of details. So you shouldn't have a problem. Okay, this larger one is going to go here on the bottom right. So just match that up with the little shadow element for the snowflake, just like that. And then we have a little smaller one. And again, don't cake this with a ton of glue. You just need a few little tiny dots, probably just one little dot on each of the little sections of the snowflake is plenty. Okay, and just match that up with the shadow element that's built into the bell. A nice little touch there. There we go. Okay, so we need to separate these poinsettias here. And I want you to take all four that have little score marks, put those in a bunch. And then the four that do not have score marks, and put those in a bunch. And kind of group these or sort them from largest to smallest, both of them. Okay, take the two largest with score marks, put those off to the side. And then take the two smallest with score marks, put those off to the side. Then we're going to take this one here, the largest, that's going to go over here with the two largest. We'll take this one, that's going to go over here. That's the second largest. And then these two look a little bit different. They almost look like jellyfish or like starfish. Grab the large starfish looking shape, bring that over to the large side, bring the small one over to the small side. Okay, so now we have them separated. Just keep those grouped together. And you'll notice, just like the little leaves here, that two of these have little score marks, and you can do the same thing here. You're going to pinch right up to the tip of all four of these, just to give them a little bit of dimension. And this is AC Crimson, the color of the poinsettia. And I started with a dark red, but I eventually went to a purple, actually, for the inking, because the red just wasn't really showing up very well. So I went with a purple, and that gave me the look I was looking for. Okay, so we're going to do that. And with these here, you're going to pinch these as well. Just do your best. These do not have little score marks, but you can still pinch them. Just give them a very light little pinch right up to the tip. You want those to be nice and dimensional. Okay, for the super small one, just kind of curl those up. So I'm just placing the little petal between my finger and the dowel and just kind of curling them up. And if at all possible, try to pinch the tip a little bit. I don't think you're really going to be able to because it's so small. But that's going to be fine. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the largest of the flower, and then just put a little dot of glue right in the center of it. And then take the second largest piece. We're going to pop that right in the middle, but you want to offset the petals. You don't want them right on top of each other. You want to rotate it just ever so slightly so that each of the petals that we're putting on top is visible, or the ones behind them are visible, actually. Okay, like that. That's all you need to do. And if you want, you can actually bend these towards you a little bit to help separate the layer that's going on top. We're going to do the same thing here. Just a little dot of glue right there. Grab the next layer and do the same thing. Just make sure you offset it so it's not right on top of the previous one. Make sure you also get it centered. If you need to give it a little nudge, try to keep that nice and centered. There we go. And then with this little guy here, just take and curl that up a little bit. And throw a dot of glue right in the center there. And pop that right in there. Again, making sure you offset the petals. And there we have our beautiful poinsettia. You can decorate that center with some bling, probably a nice rhinestone. I'd go with a red one. Okay, and then this is going to go right on top of this green piece here, and you want to do your best to get that centered as well. Now, what you may actually want to do before we put the poinsettia in place, you'll notice that this guy here, there's a series of little markers here, and you want to try to get the circle portion of this inside of the little markers. And in doing so, you'll notice that you have an even border around here. Okay, and we want one of these leaves coming out to the bottom left. One's going to be kind of coming down, and one's going to be going up to the left. Okay, so let's just apply some glue to this little circle part, and let's get this installed first. Again, making sure you got that nice even little border around there. It's going to kind of set the tone for when we put our poinsettia in place at the end. There we go. And same thing with this guy here. Okay, just pop that in there. You'll notice that you have a little marker there suggesting that part of this is going to go over to the left, one's going to be out to the right, and one's coming down like that. And again, even border with that gold all the way around the circle. And that's going to help you really get this thing nice and accurate. All right, just like that. In the meantime, we'll let that kind of set. Let's finish up the other poinsettia, starting with the largest. Go ahead and use those score lines to help you pinch. And just go around right up to the tip. We'll do that on this one here. This is the second largest of the small part of the flower, or the small flower. Okay, and then we have this guy here. You should be able to pinch this one okay. The last one, we're just going to curl up. Get that a little pinch. It's okay if it's not perfect. If you've ever seen flowers, rarely are they super perfect. Okay, they've been through a lot. Okay, and then you can take that, kind of curl it up. This last one, again, I'm just going to take and just kind of twirl it between my fingers, get the little petals nice and elevated, sticking out. Okay, and put a little dot of glue on the largest section of petals here. Grab the next largest, and don't forget to offset. We want each of those little petals to have its moment of glory here, have its time in the limelight. It's a little off center. That's okay. That's good. All right, let's throw a next little bit of glue on there. Grab the next section and line that up. Nice and centered. Don't forget, offset the petals. Keep that nice and centered. Beautiful. And then finally, just a tiny little dot there. That'll dry clear, so even if you go a little overboard with it, not the end of the world. There we go. Okay, perfect. So one other thing too here, we've got this piece we cut out of a glitter, and because it's glitter, it's going to be hard to kind of train this. And the fact that it is glitter is actually a good thing, because try to also kind of keep it, well, petite, especially the little, you know, the middle of this little plant section here. Okay, so go ahead and throw a little bit of glue on the back of this piece, the circular piece. And one of these little sprigs is going to be up like that, and the other one should be pretty much right about here. You can actually tuck it behind the leaf there, just like that. Okay, give that a few seconds to set. Grab the other one, and with this one here, we have 3 little sprigs. And again, you can see here the little markers that kind of help you determine where to place it. Okay, so that's going to go like that. We're going to have one kind of coming down, one off to the right, and then finally one up here, like so. Just like that. So let's take and apply some glue to the back of the circular part here. And just be careful with that. little delicate piece, which should be fine as long as you cut this out of a glitter. Even if it's not, it should be okay. There we go. All right, so that's all in place. Now we have our beautiful poinsettia, and that's going to be, you can actually foam square that if you want. It's going to go right there. This one's going to go right there. That's beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to use a very thin little foam square on the back of my poinsettias. I want to create a little bit of dimension beyond what we already have there. And actually, you know what? I just realized that may not be such a great idea, mostly because I'm gluing it to glitter. So I may end up hot gluing that down. We'll see if it holds up. If it doesn't, I'm going to use some hot glue. I just realized that may not be the best idea, but it's okay. You can always, with these foam squares, you can always pull them off. It's not a big deal. And sort of set the orientation on this so you don't hide the little leaf here. Grab one of the leaves there and just make sure that it's kind of going off to the side a bit, like so. Okay, that looks beautiful. That is stunning. All right, great. So all that's left here, where did my caption go? Oh yeah, that's right. Put it underneath here so that it would have the mat do the work. Okay, our Noel caption is going to go right here. And I'm not a big fan of that little crease there. See if I can fix that with my finger. Yeah, I think I just made it worse. Okay, nevertheless, I can always put another layer on top of that. There's our beautiful caption, and this is actually going to get glued down, and because it's such a delicate little piece, you don't need a lot of glue. Also, I was just thinking to myself, we used Mylar. You can definitely use a vellum if you don't have anything like that, or just a clear piece of acetate would work too, and that's going to get glued down like that. Okay, make sure that you've got it in the right spot, especially if you're using like this little Mylar, because if you blemish that with glue, it is not very forgiving, and well, you're going to be stuck with a stain. Okay, so finally, to wrap this up, you're going to make a bow, and you're going to apply a bow here. You can use the little slits to tie the bow, and then adorn that with your little snowflake there. And of course, you can fold this down flat once it's all done. They'll receive it like this when they open it up. And of course, we need to put together our envelope, which I have here. And again, I went with the solid scoreline version of the envelope. You're going to take and fold these two flaps in. We're going to bring the bottom up. We need to apply a little bit of glue right along the inside edge here, like so. Like that. Bring that up and press and hold. Okay, and then we have this little two-tone thing going with the flap here, and you can see where that goes. We got a nice even border on the inside. What we do want to do is apply our glue around this area here. If we try to put it on the white part, we're not going to know where not to put glue, which may result in some glue showing through. And then you can take and apply some glue just to the perimeter of this. So we're actually putting glue on two separate sections. And then just pop that right into place. Make sure it's nice and centered. Press that down. There we go. All right, and then finally we have our beautiful little bell, and that's going to go right there. So again, don't forget to put your little bow on there. I'm just going to do a single loop bow. A lot of you have made bows before, so I don't think I really need to show that. And that's really going to do it for this one. So again, take a look at the final photo on the website so you can see where I added some bling. And the actual bow itself, you don't want to make it any larger than, say, maybe just slightly past the width of the bell itself. Okay, but that's really going to do it. So you can see here how that's going to look up there, especially with the bow. It's going to look wonderful. And of course, you've got plenty of room on the back to write your little message, and that's going to do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please visit us on our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. While you're there, hit the little bell so you get notifications anytime we release a new product. And if you make this or anything from our new Christmas in July bundle, I'd love to see it, and so would the rest of our community. So head over to your Facebook and do a search for Dreaming Tree Official. That's where you'll find myself and over 43,000 dreamers that inspire us daily. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I look forward to crafting with you again. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos, and please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section, where you'll find over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly tutorials. I'll see you in the craft room.